They stood frozen, paralyzed by something unseen. 5 strangers bound by fear, trapped in a forest that should have been ordinary. Then, nothing. It was a bright, cool morning. The sky was clear, and sunlight streamed through the trees at the edge of the forest. The world felt peaceful. 5 hikers stood by the trailhead with their backpacks loaded, full of energy and excitement. Leah was quiet. She smiled now and then, but she was lost in her thoughts. She held a small photo in her jacket that she often touched instinctively. Logan double-checked everyone's gear. He was a calm and careful kind of person who made others feel safe. Mara spoke fast and laughed loudly. She kept adjusting the straps of her backpack, as if she was trying to keep her hands busy. Tom rolled his eyes at the others and joked about city people being scared of trees. He said nature wasn't scary. It was just dirt and bugs. Casey posed for a photo by the old wooden sign. She took a selfie with a peace sign, then another with a fake scared face. "Into the cursed woods we go," she said, laughing. They stepped onto the trail together. The trees swallowed them quickly. Sunlight dimmed, the air grew cooler. The sounds of the outside world faded behind them. None of them noticed the forest go quiet. And none of them knew. The forest already knew who they were. It had begun to remember. The first few hours were easy. The forest trail was peaceful. Birds sang above them. Sunlight shone through the leaves, making everything look warm and calm. They joked, shared snacks, and took pictures. Leah smiled a little more now. Logan helped her across a stream, laughing when his boots got wet. Mara pointed out mushrooms and strange plants, trying to guess their names. She made up silly stories about fairies and curses. Tom told them none of it was real. "Just dirt and trees," he said. But even he seemed to enjoy himself. Casey filmed it all, spinning in circles with her arms out like she was in a movie. She posted videos with music and filters, saying this was going to be her best trip ever. They stopped by a small clearing for lunch. They were happy for a little while. Everything felt normal. They didn't know the forest was already listening and watching. By dusk, the laughter was gone. The forest didn't feel the same anymore. The trees seemed taller and darker. The sunlight was fading fast, and long shadows stretched across the ground like reaching hands. Leah walked a little away from the camp. She wasn't sure why. Something had caught her eye. Just a glimpse, or maybe a feeling. She stopped in front of an old tree. Its bark was rough, almost black. Something was carved into it. She stepped closer to read. There were names, numbers, and strange symbols. And in the center, there was something that she couldn't read. She scratched deep, and it was a date, July 29th. Her heart dropped. That was today. A cold breeze moved through the trees. It sounded like a sigh, long and slow, like the forest had just woken up. Back at the camp, the fire burned quietly, but no one laughed anymore. No one smiled. Mara kept turning around. Logan poked at the fire again and again. Casey had set her phone down and just stared at nothing. Even Tom, the calm one, looked pale. No one said anything. But they all felt it. Something was wrong. The woods felt tighter, closer, watching. Then, a crack, a branch snapping deep in the trees. Everyone froze. And then, softly, they heard it. Whispers, not from one person, from many. Low, quiet, all around them. The forest was speaking, and it seemed to know their secrets. Then came the memories. A lit cigarette left for a man who quit years ago, a broken lullaby echoing from an empty tent, footsteps that led nowhere, voices long buried, now crying out. Each hiker faced something they thought they had forgotten, until the forest showed them otherwise. Casey's drone returned, its lens blood-streaked, playing footage of a bedroom she hadn't seen since her sister died. They tried to leave, but the path didn't lead to anywhere. No matter which direction they walked, the trees moved around them. Rocks they had passed before now stood in strange places. The trail signs were gone, or worse, written in symbols they couldn't understand. The map was useless. Panic began to grow. Then Tom was gone. No scream, no warning. One moment he was behind them, and the next there was just empty space. They searched. They shouted, even called for help. But there was nothing. And then the forest began to take them. Logan saw someone in the distance, a shape standing between the trees. It looked like his younger brother, who had died in the fire long ago. Logan stepped forward, calling his name. The shape turned and walked deeper into the woods, and Logan followed. He didn't look back. Mara fell to her knees. She heard a child crying, soft, broken. It sounded so close, like the child was lost and scared. She crawled toward the sound, whispering, "It's okay, I'm here." The ground beneath her opened. Hands made of dirt and roots reached up and pulled her under. Now only Leah was left. She ran. Branches scraped her arms. Roots reached out like fingers, trying to trip her. The forest whispered her name again and again, low, cold, like a voice she remembered from somewhere deep in her past. But she didn't stop. She kept running until the trees opened into a small clearing, and there, in the center, stood a single tree, old, twisted, taller than the others. Its bark was dark and rough. Names were carved into it. All of their names. Blood oozed from the cuts like the tree was bleeding. At its roots, something lay still. A body. Leah stepped in to look closer. It was Tom. Leah stepped back, shaking. Then, footsteps. Logan appeared, but his face was different. It changed as he walked closer, flickering like firelight, shifting between faces, his, then someone else's. Someone she feared. Someone she hadn't seen since she was a child. She screamed, "No!" and she ran. Leah ran until her legs burned. The trees began to grow thinner and the air felt lighter. Then, suddenly, she burst out of the forest. She stumbled onto a road. She could see the fences and power lines in the distance. She was out. She collapsed to her knees, crying and gasping for breath. The morning sun rose slowly behind her, warm, bright. Birds sang again for a moment. It felt over. Then she heard sirens. She called for help. 2 police cars pulled up and officers rushed toward her. They asked questions, but she couldn't speak. They wrapped her in a blanket, giving her water. They opened a folder, flipping through old papers. "These names, they match," said the officer, looking confused. "These 5 hikers went missing 20 years ago. July 29th, 2005. You were one of them." The officer continued. Leah stared at him, confused. She tried to say something, but no words came out. Then she looked down. She was still holding the torn photo. But now, it was different. All the faces were scratched out, even hers. Her hands began to shake. Slowly, she turned around. Back toward the forest, but the forest was gone. There was nothing but an empty field. Flat, silent, no trees, no trail, no sign that it had ever been there. The officer called her name. She didn't answer, because she saw something standing in the distance. At the edge of the empty field, she saw dark shapes. They weren't moving, and they didn't seem human. She looked carefully and saw faces. They were half hidden in the sky. They were Tom, Mara, Casey, and Logan, watching her and smiling, and slowly their faces began to fade like smoke, sinking back into the ground. The forest had let her go, but not because she escaped, because it had taken what it needed: memories, names, fear, and now it remembered her too, forever.